product and this the training for business analysts starts in the spring of 2012. In 2012, our phone rang, and it was Oracle. And for those customers in the room, okay, who are customers? Who are partners, vendors? Okay, so let's just go. Okay, so the vendors in the room, when Lyle calls you and says, hi, can I have a meeting? You go, yeah! Okay, it was pretty exciting. So we kind of called it that phone ring. And literally, Lyle and John asked us to meet with them. Okay, and they said, you guys have done training for a really long time. You've done it really, really well for our customers. And now we need you to do it for our ecosystem. And we need you to do it for our partners. Okay? And what we realized in that is that they weren't the only ones asking us that, right? We've had clients who we've done end user training for a long, long, long time. Okay? We're not going to talk so much about that today. But we've also had the customers who said, great, that's great, you take care of our whole end user community. We need actually software training. We have our IT department. We have our business analysts. We need to train them. How are we supposed to get them trained cost effectively? And then we've had other partners saying, hey, yeah, it's just not cost effective for us to do training. So we've had that phone ringing. So this is the problem space. Okay, see what you can relate to in here, all right? First of all, how do you keep your people current? Truly current, right? Maybe you're on 9.0, but you really want to know pages from 9.1. And I'm not talking about all of your end users, your business users. I'm talking about your core team, right? How do you keep them current on really knowing what's out there new? Okay? How do you take that new person, right? We're going to use some humor here, right? How do you take that junior, that newbie, maybe that college hire? You need some fresh blood in your organization. But how do you teach them what JDOs is, and what AIs and UDCs and all these acronyms, and how do you bring them up to speed? How do you take the older people? And again, we're having a little humor here, right? How do you take those retiring people, and how do you replace their knowledge? We have a client in the room right now who has amazing expertise in their older community, right? But they're retiring, and they need to have that deep dive knowledge in that younger community. How do you get the deep dive? How do you grow your own team as you're acquiring people? Acquiring companies. And then also, how do you do it with the budget that you have? Okay? That's the big question. And how do you do it in a timely manner? Huge questions that are being asked, and weren't just being asked by you guys, but now we're being asked by Oracle. So let's go back to them. So why us? Let's talk about why us, then I'll get to the tagline. Sorry. Why us? So just a little bit about iLearnERP, because who are we? Why are we the experts? Why do we have the keynote? Why are we standing here talking? All we've done since 2001 in the JDOs community is training. That's it. Training, innovative training solutions, and we've had an amazing success. We've taken Tyco Healthcare and Sierra Bar and WLOR and some very global, large, and we're at BE Aerospace right now with Clee Associates. And, we've had some very large customers. We've trained some project teams, and we've trained everything else. And so we have this proven training effort. We have a proven methodology, right? We have a great toolkit. And that's all that we do. We are in the business of training, right? Whereas you guys are in the business. It's great. A lot of our clients, I've had a couple of VPs of IT who, at the end of the day, they're like, Carmen, that's brilliant. It's simple, and I would not have thought of it. I said, no, you would not, because you're running an oil and gas company. You're running this company. I'm in the business of training in ERP. And then this is all we do. So with that, let's go through how we got here. How did we get to such a shortage of talent? Does anyone feel a shortage of talent in the JDOs community? Or is it just me? Okay? Yeah, there is a shortage of JDOs talent, right? Why? How did we get here? Even consulting firms, anyone have a project waiting to start because your fabulous consulting firm that you've tapped into for years, right? Can't start it right away because they don't have the resources. It's a global problem. And how did we get here? Well, we got here because in 2003, PeopleSoft acquired JDOs, and I thought it was going to go away with a lot of other people, right? I kind of joked about that. And then Oracle bought us, and we thought, well, maybe is JDOs going away? Or is JDOs staying here, right? So people jump ship. Companies jump ship. People retool themselves, right? And then Oracle starts investing in JDOs, and we start saying, okay, yeah, I think it's going to stay around. But then it gets really, really good, right? In 2011, all of a sudden it goes mobile, right? And 9.0 comes out, and it just booms. And I don't know if you guys have heard statistics, but last year there was more sales of JDOs in Oracle than any other ERP software in Oracle. Okay? Yeah, it's huge. It's awesome. We're around to stay. It's a great community. But now all of a sudden we've got a shortage of talent. So that's where literally, the Oracle themselves came in and said, hey guys, this is an ecosystem problem. So we need to solve it. And so with that then, we went, okay, we are going to solve it, and we're going to talk about E1 Academy, one of the solves, but we were standing there just going, okay, that's a lot to take in. We've got to think about a lot of different users, a lot of different community, a lot of different things, and what are we going to do? So before we started solving it, we put together, or as we solved it, but we put together this, in a sense, commercial, okay, that recaps all the problem space, see what you can relate to, right? Some of the things that we've done and what we've built, and then also with it is what are the best practices around this. Okay, so watch this one.
Enterprise One is the hottest ERP on the market. As an organization specializing in J.D. Edwards software, times are good. So good, in fact, you can't train people to be productive experts quickly enough. So how do you get your newest staff up to speed? How do you ensure consistency in training between your senior professionals and the newest members of your team? Traditional techniques like shadowing or face-to-face training doesn't provide new learners with on-demand courses or easy accessibility to return to the content for refreshers or updates. Knowledge transfer might not be their specialty, and your top performers may not want to take time out of their own workday to provide guidance for the newest members. But what if there was a solution that ensured consistent quality training? A single source education center that's always up to date with the latest modules to professionally train your team with easy access and proven results. There is with the E1 Academy. E1 Academy is a comprehensive online learning tool that teaches business-savvy hires J.D. Edwards software. We've worked with the best of the best to create this learning portal and effectively turn your new hires into experts. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so your people can access it anytime, anywhere for easy learning. As a single source solution, you'll save time and money while also ensuring your organization gets trained right. Rather than creating, implementing, and maintaining your own education courses, we've already done the work to provide a complete, custom curriculum that's proven effective. So instead of sending a single person to a single event and relying on them to train the rest of your staff, every single one of your team members can log in and learn anytime they need, at their own pace, giving them personal ownership of their training. And we help ensure that they stay experts by incorporating new releases into the system as they become available. As new modules come out, each custom learning path will be updated with a new course, and the individuals will be alerted to stay on top of their education. Our team has been training people for nearly 2 decades and have provided education solutions to thousands of professionals in hundreds of businesses worldwide. So if you're ready to provide your team with the best training and constantly updated, easily accessible learning resources, turn to E1 Academy. E1 Academy, training designed with the expert in mind.
And one of the ways things also we played is we fully understand that everyone from your organization isn't here, right? So all of a sudden you've heard a little bit and you're like, oh, that's really interesting. I kind of want someone else to hear that little clip, right? This is something that's on our website. You can send to people, and you can, obviously share with other people in the organization who aren't maybe at the conference or maybe even in this room. So with that now is, how do we solve it? Okay, I described the problem space. How do we solve that in an economical, this is what's key, economical, cost-effective way, less than the cost of one Oracle class, okay, for have all classes for a BA, okay? And to solve that, I called Elizabeth. She's our CEO. Come on up, Elizabeth. Elizabeth Schaefer is an amazing woman and literally lives in the trenches of all of our projects, all of our training, owns all of delivery. And actually, I said, okay, so great. How do we do it? And she did it. And here we go. With that said, thank you, Carmen. It's exciting to be here today to share what's a pretty new solution for us. We've been building e-learning type solutions for customers for a long time, but we've never done one on the scale of taking it out to the entire J.D. Edwards community. And when we were asked about the keynote, that became our theme to talk about with it, is that there was a lot of best practices that we leveraged from all the experiences that we had and the different universities that we've been building, and we were able to combine all of them into this latest eLearning University, the E1 Academy, that you were just able to take a look at in the commercial or the video that we saw. Because I'm a trainer and I train every day. I actually just shook hands with a fellow partner, and we're going to be at the same client site next week. So I am out there and doing it and living it and raising it with you guys. But we're going to walk through here today. I need to tell you exactly where I was going. We're going to talk about how you capture knowledge, how you keep that knowledge, how you keep people current, and more importantly, what are the best practices that you can pull back to your organization. And we'll highlight a couple of those that hopefully you can go back and either evaluate your own learning tools, what you have going on right now, or maybe look to expand those into other areas. All right, so Carmen said, they put it in my lap and said, how are we going to do this? And I also got that look from John and from Lyle, how are you going to do this, Elizabeth? So we had to take a step back and take an approach that we take with a number of our customers, some of which of their happy faces are in this room, so that's nice support for me today. We have to break it down, and we have to say there's need and there's audiences, and we put those two pieces together and we come up with a delivery approach. Delivery approach is a little bit more complex. I'm going to go deep into that as well here in just a second. But this is really how we started to look at it. So let's talk about the need for just a second and where all of these different needs come together for you. And the takeaway for you as you're sitting there right now and kind of saying, okay, where's she headed with this? How do I apply this to myself? It's really to step back and say, I can tackle any learning challenge with these components. Okay, I can tackle any one of my learning challenges by saying I have needs, I have audiences, and that's what drives into my delivery approach. So need, usually people can articulate it pretty quickly, all right? They can do that for one of two reasons. One, it's either their pain, right? And most of us can articulate our pain very quickly. Or it's some business driver or objective that you have for your organization. So some folks will look at me, Elizabeth, I got my budget for next year, what should we do? I don't know what you should do. Tell me what your organization wants to accomplish next year. What are your goals for next year? And then we'll figure out what we should do with our training budget for next year. So all of your training, if it's not being driven by your business objectives or your business drivers, those targets and KPIs that are out there, you probably want to rethink them. Okay, so our rapid decision folks yesterday, we talked about some things about just not saving time or saving money or making you money. We use those same qualities to evaluate training. If it's not saving your organization something somewhere along the line, paying time, money, etc., and it's not helping you make money, then it's probably not worthwhile. We certainly don't believe in training for, just training's sake, at least not in the ERP world these days. So up here on the slide is the different drivers that we're hearing from people. Yours may be different. There may be one or two of them that are out there, but these are organizational objectives. And the reality is that J.D. Edwards knowledge folds into all of these. Okay, in some way, shape, or form. It may not be all of it, okay, but in some way, shape, or form, you may be having a process improvement initiative. There may be things in J.D. Edwards that can help with that. You may be implementing BI or improving your BI. You may have a reorganization, and what we see a lot these days, we hear a lot of people coming to us with mergers and acquisitions. Okay, big in this day and age, and actually folding in those companies into your list. So these are organizational goals that we see driving your need. We also talk to individuals, and I've talked to tons of them out here at our booth, and those wants or needs actually all start with I need this, right? Usually that need is somewhere in one of these buckets. I need to stay current, I need to know this particular feature, I sometimes just need to know JDE, right? If I came from the business side, maybe I was an end user, maybe I was really not a user that used J.D. Edwards, but my organization does, and now in my new position, I actually just need all of that J.D. Edwards foundation. So there's a lot of different I needs. Usually those needs tie together with what's going on in the business. Okay? I run this department and we now acquired this other department. Now I have to deal with all these folks. Right? So there's a lot of ways that those tie together. And I just tried to tie them together on this slide for folks so they could kind of connect those dots a little bit. If you're doing that process improvement, you need your people to be current on the software. So they're not coming up with some wild customization, right? Or wanting to buy something else, even some other piece of software, when really that functionality may be right there in J.D. Edwards. So staying current has become even more important for us. It impacts our bottom line, knowing what those features are that are in them. Now with that, I'm going to use something in learning world we call a visual cue, and it's that little finger button up there that says learn. I'm a trainer. I've always been a little bit of a fish out of water since 2001 here in the J.D. Edwards world. I'm not ex-JDE. I come from the learning world, and so I don't fit in here totally or exactly into it. And so one of the things I want to do is share a little bit of my world with you. We're members of the organizations like ASTD and other things like that are the training and development. You may have folks in your organizations that fit in there as well. But this little button on the side is a
visual cue, and all it's going to show us is just a place where I want to give you some takeaways related to learning. One of them is pretty recent. Actually, it's happened since we got the call in the beginning of 2012 as we've seen a new methodology come out in learning. You've probably heard of ADDIE, or maybe not, but most people, it's been around for forever, so most people have heard it at some point in time. But it's analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. And it's how trainers, we methodically go through every single one of those steps every time we want to do something, one by one by one. Now, the reality is that out there in the real world, as time has gone by, we've gotten faster and faster and changed that approach a little bit. A new method has come out called SAM. Now, you're thinking to yourself, what am I going to do with this? If nothing else, you can go back and say, I learned something new. Hey, do you know what SAM is to your training department? But what it is a faster way to develop content. And it goes along with this whole idea of YouTube and how readily accessible information is to us in our modern world. We can jump on and Google. In fact, my team makes fun of me quite often because I'm a Google fanatic. They'll say something, I'll say something. We should Google it. We should know that answer because the information's at our fingertips. Okay? So if there's a little takeaway, there's something you want to kind of, nudge your learning folks with, ask if they've heard of SAM. It's successive approximation model, and means that we can get to content faster. We don't have to sit there and go step by step by step by step by step and make every one of our learning initiatives take weeks on end. So let's talk about who our audiences are. Most people can tell me their who. When I say, okay, well, who is that you're trying to train? Most people can answer that question. They can point to the group, or they can name the department, or that sort of thing. We take it a few steps further with that, and we want to look at what the current state is. Who are your new folks? Who are you trying to repurpose? We distinguish between IT repurposing and business repurposing. Definitely very different needs there, as well as cross-training. Interestingly, cross-training has been the number one thing I've heard in the booth in these past 24 hours. Is I'm the only person that knows advanced pricing in my organization. I have these other people that need it. I have just taken on this new job, and now I have more financial responsibilities. I need AP. So we've heard a lot. I've heard a lot more cross-training than actually I was expecting, which is the reason why we're here and to have those conversations. Now, one size does not fit all. Okay, and that's one of the things that has come up for us over the course of time. And people always say, oh, do you have a class? Sure, I have a class. I've always said, what do you want in that class? Because we're a custom training shop. We've never kept one standard agenda. It just has never worked for us because it doesn't work for you, right? It doesn't work for me to walk in with my curriculum. If you're at point B, you shouldn't have me starting at point A, right? And so one size really doesn't fit all. There's no one-stop shop, right? That's what kind of we've always said. We have to customize the agenda. We have to do some of those things. So circling back to what my whole challenge was when I was building the university, it really was, well, how do I make a one-stop shop that's really not a one-stop shop? Okay? I want you to be able to get only the content you need, only when you need it, but I still need it all in one place. So that's what I was tackling while I was out there. So we bucketed, actually, into the top two of these when we first got started. We bucketed all of our, pillared in, whatever word you want to use, but we gathered these different kinds or categories of users into the new analysts and the experienced users. And you know who you are. You either fall on the newer front or you fall on I've been doing this for a long time. Okay? And then we found that third one, that cross-training one. Okay? And that cross-training user really posed kind of an interesting problem for us right in the beginning, but we found that it settled itself out because that cross-training user tended to fit in one of the above. They were either experienced on the application or the things they were getting new that they were cross-trained on. They ended up falling into the new category. But each of these groups led to a special problem to us. Some of that is, like if I have a new analyst, you have a brand new college hire. I was going to ask this question earlier in the day today, and they were like, I don't hire. So we like to think that our ecosystem is growing and that people are bringing those new hires in. They need to speak JD Edwards. They need to know what the rules are. They need to know what AAIs are. They need to know how it thinks. Right? So we don't, maybe you don't think about it often because we live and breathe it, but JDers thinks a little differently than some of the other circles that are out there. And knowing how it thinks before you get too far down the path is really helpful for you. We also want them to get some soft skills and practice and do some other things along there. Our experience users, which is primarily who we meet while we're here. Okay, so that always helps us with that because we get a good feel for what you want, don't know, think you need to know, and do need to know, etc. And that's a new feature, what's changed, new modules, etc. Okay, so we can predict that one, but it's always nice to have a conversation and get what's out there. And then cross-training I kind of already touched on. But the interesting thing about cross-training is people who are cross-training want the whole thing. They're experienced, but they're experienced on something else. right? And they know the value of being educated on that new module or that new area of J.D. Edwards, so they want to go deep. So it kind of circles them back up to being a new analyst. So there's our visual cue again. We're going to learn something else. This one's going to be much faster. This is digital learners. Okay, now if you have, I have a lot of kids, we'll leave that aside there, but they're electronics, they're all digital learners. They've got more electronics than I probably ever saw before I was 25, right? They want phones, they have iPads, they use Nintendos, they do everything else. What that means to us coming up in the learning world, and this is why I want you to hear it and maybe even begin to care about it, is it's changing our learning world, and it's changing it at rapid fire. Okay? As these digital learners come out of school and come into the marketplace, and you'll see it on the quote up here, it's more about the way they learn and the lifestyle that they lead. And this quote is from a digital generation project that's documenting how these people are coming into our world, but it's about engagement. They engage with those electronics. They don't know a world without it. My 3-year-old picked up a remote the other day and tried to call on it. She didn't actually understand what it was. She doesn't quite get some of the books. And it's funny for me because as a learning person, I look at her and I think, well, how am I going to train her somewhere on down the road? And it's a good balance check for me. But they care about being self-directed. They want to be able to get to the information themselves. They want to get to it when they want it and quickly. Really, really quickly. Even to the point where they don't want to log into the internet and things like that. It's fully security aside, but they want to get to it really fast. And these people are coming, and they're going to change how folks like me start to talk about learning and things like that. So where does that leave us? I talked about audience and I talked about me, right? I didn't actually deliver anything yet, which my customers in the room, they're right there with me, I'm sure. But we're in the weeds a little bit here. I talked about audience, I talked about needs, and now I have to actually combine those two. Simple math, add audience plus need, and get to a delivery approach. So circling back all the way to our beginning is, where were we in the spring of 2012? And that was, what are we going to deliver that can meet all this wide range of audience needs, teach how J.D. Edwards thinks, teach all these modules, but yet have it centralized and modern and all of these kinds of good things. So we had to kind of step back and say, okay, well, how are we going to do that? And accept the fact that it was a complicated problem. Okay? A lot of times people think, oh, it's training. It's the last line on your project plan if we make it some days. Sometimes even left out. We're used to that. But what we realized is we had to look at it from a complexity standpoint. In the Harvard Business Review, you can see there's a number of articles out there on how to analyze your problem. A very common problem or something in that bottom corner there would be something that's simplistic. It's got a single best practice. We can say, yep, that's the best way to do that. Other ones that are in the complex and complicated areas means that you got multiple factors and you're going to have multiple best practices. Okay, so one of my objectives to talk to you about today when Carmen handed it over was to share best practices, and that's where we're headed now. Talk a little bit more about delivery approach, and we're going to head into the best practices that solve what is this very complicated problem. Okay? So with that, there's my very ugly learning molecule that I was told once in a smaller breakout session. No one cared about but me, which I thought was a funny comment. But we'll use it just to guide us here. This is how we analyze internally solutions. If you were to call us and ask us to be like an expert witness on what you had going on, we would benchmark it against some of the content that we hear. What we hear about in this is the knowledge, skill, and attitudes. When I go to figure out a delivery approach, I need to figure out what the person knows, okay, how much skill they have on that topic, and what their attitude about it is. So knowledge. Most folks know what knowledge is. It's the why. Okay, the why are you doing it? The interesting part you'll see on the skill side is we leave out the why an awful lot in our training. But it's understanding why it's being done and when it needs to be done within your process. It has become highlighted for us how much of a priority that is in J.D. Edwards, because J.D. Edwards is so configurable. Okay, that's why so many people have loved it and stood up for it passionately along the way, and that is because we can go into processing options, we can use category codes, we have these hundreds of things that we can configure, and we don't have to go to the full-blown customization, right? We can customize by just making selections. Right? If you don't know about those selections, you end up way down a path. I did a customer once, and they kind of brought us in. We were a little vague on why we were there. They had multiple legacy systems going, and they had these 10 temps they weren't happy with that they had to keep after they went go live, and it was just kind of a mess, right? So we went through some basic education, and what we found is we got rid of the legacy system because we were able to throw it into cross-reference. And with some basic education on sales order, we were able to cut down the time on sales order entries were happening, and all of a sudden with some it was about a week or two worth of education. We got, now, it's not nice to say we got rid of 10 people, but we were able to get rid of the 10 hires who had been brought in to do that and decommission a legacy system. Okay, that's a really powerful one. So that, there's certainly lesser examples, but that's one of the stories as to how just knowing what the system can do and staying current on what the system can do can actually help you and help your bottom line. The skill of it, the interesting thing is when we talk about training is a lot of people think that it's just how you click or where you click, and that's just the skill of what people do. It's the tactical, it's the easiest, and it's most of what our training looks like. Okay, there is a place for it, and we have it too. Okay, we do need people to practice. We do need them to know where to click. I also care a lot about them knowing where to find the clicks. Okay, how to look up through the help and know what those clicks are. But we do need that piece out there. It's just definitely one that most people are comfortable with. So what is the attitude? Okay, what does the audience think? Okay, what are they thinking about what we're asking them to do? That's their attitude about it. Different attitudes can produce different delivery approaches. You may say, I need a live session. I need a one-on-one. I need to look them in the eye because I've got this huge, enormous OCM issue out there. It's possible, okay? That certainly can exist out there, but it is important to know that attitude does play into this. So one little takeaway from you can actually predict what the attitude is going to be for your organization on a particular topic by analyzing what you have in skills and knowledge and comparing that with the challenge you're posing to the person, okay, or to the group of people. So if you say, well, they're highly skilled, they're highly knowledgeable, they've been on J.D. Edwards forever, okay, and I'm not really challenging them with anything, they're probably in this calm state. Okay, a lot of you are in the calm state. When I talk to you in the booth, at least I sense it feels like you're in the calm state. You're really skilled, you're really knowledgeable, your systems are in place, you're feeling pretty good, and you're not being challenged with anything right now. I also talk about 50% of the other folks are in kind of an agitated state on the other end there, and that's because either they don't have the experience in their teams, okay, to do something, and their challenges are very high, so they become very anxious. Okay? If we can combine those two, okay, at a good level, we can actually get people pretty excited. Okay? Now with that, there's two last components here. We're going to move through these pretty quickly. Learning aids in the learning environment. And you'll see a lot of bubbles on there, but we can't leave just knowledge, skill, and attitude. We actually do have to produce some things for them in learning aids, and we do actually have to give them somewhere to interact. Okay, whether that's the online university or whether that's a practice environment. We use Hammer to now analyze that using plan, team, and tools. Okay, so most of you guys know Beyond Richie or know Dr. Hammer, pretty common framework for us there. But we use it to take a look at what methodology are we going to use for plan, who's going to do it in the team, and the who means who's going to create the content. For us, that's an enormous issue. Okay, you're going to see some examples of some folks shortly, and they are subject matter experts. They are experts in that one module. Okay, and it was very important that they were experts in that one module. Okay, we didn't need them to know everything. We needed them to be gurus. Okay, and then the tools. What mediums are available to you? That's important to know to do that. So with that, where do we go from here? So when I went to congeal the best practices into something, this was one of Forbes' quote of the day, I think a week or two, it was probably 2 weeks ago now. Our best lessons are not through success and all that sort of thing, but through our misadventure. I'm not going to share the misadventure that was the building of the academy with you, but pull out all of those best practices because we found, of course, we had some misadventures. We did something that really wasn't being done. We didn't have anywhere to turn. But we were able to actually pull together best practices as we built our own for J.D. Edwards. So with that, here's our 12. Our session will be posted as well, so you can certainly pull this down or you can email me directly for a combination of 12. I've bucketed them into 3 different categories. One's on content, one's on deployment, and one's on the support network. I'm going to go into content and deployment first, and then I'll circle back and talk about how we support our users on down the road. Content's the thing everybody focuses on. Okay? Now, we focused on it too. It was the single biggest thing, but what I realized is that it's all of the packaging around it. We've been called packagers before. Okay, Carmen actually may have labeled us packagers at one point in time. How you deliver your content is extremely important. Okay, you can be as smart as the world, okay, about one particular thing, but if you don't package it well for somebody, it's not going to go over so well. So we're going to go through these in kind of the order that's out there, and this is going to give those of you that approached us about actually wanting to see the Academy a chance to see some of the information that's out there. So one of the things is to make your content engaging. Okay, now I can actually safely say right now at 3:30 in the afternoon, but there's a lot of other factors that make your content engaging, right? You guys have just had snack, it's 3:30, it's day 2, right? My ability to engage you is factored by some of those components, okay? So engaging can have some limitations that are out there, okay? And this is how we accomplished it. We did it by using props, by coaching our folks through speaking skills and putting that out there, by using a lot of adult learning theory practice, such as you have to change your medium, you have to change your situation, and you have to change how you talk to folks every couple of minutes. Okay, even as simple as me moving around the stage and talking with my hands can be considered medium changing. Okay, this is Brendan. He actually walked through the show floor here earlier today. A lot of our folks are locals here in Denver. When he does all of his distribution and inventory work, he uses bicycles. We use golf clubs. We use bike jerseys and those sorts of things to actually represent what is a kit. Okay, you've got a putter, you've got a driver, you've got a bag. We want to make a kit out of it. How do you sell that? And more importantly, how do you create that in J.D. Edwards? Okay, so when we go to engage folks with it, we took a lot of these different concepts, including flip charts, okay, call outs on the screen, and things like that in order to make sure that our learners stayed engaged with us. You're coming on our movie slide. It's going to be 3 or 4 examples of this. I hope we can cue those up. These are going to be 3 or 4 of our folks. You're going to see a few folks coming through there. There we go. And I'll talk for just a second here and then I'll be right through. This is our standard introduction to our video. And what you're going to see is 4 of our trainers showing some of the content that they do. This is contract and service billing. This is advanced pricing. So Kevin just had his flip chart up through here to explain the key points. This is Raji actually teaching soft skills. And there's Brendan with his golf club. Perfect, thank you. Just a little taste of what we have out there. Now, if you leave here with one thing, it would be this one. Okay, when you look at your content, make sure it's granular. All right. Now, the biggest thing for us is we would step back and we took that audience plus that need and tried to figure out how to actually break that down into content. It was figuring out how to make it granular. And the takeaway on granular is that by making your content granular, you can then share it with multiple people. You can share it with the person who's just missing one component. Okay. In their division, they didn't use maybe they used catalogs and advanced pricing for whatever reason. Okay? And in their new division, they need it. There's your answer, right? It's at a granular level. They only have to be given that component. You can take that cross-trained person, okay, and you can give them the whole module. You can take that person that comes from another organization where all they did was some basic base pricing setup, and they can take advanced pricing. Okay? You can also then say here, okay, but in our organization, we don't use, okay, and I could go out there and say we don't use free goods, and you're not going to need the rounding rules here. We take them right off. Okay, so by making your content granular, it gives you the ability to meet multiple audiences' needs. Okay, now our content is all built around business analysts, consultants, etc. Okay, so that this is not end user. So it is important for me to baseline a little bit that we are looking at J.D. Edwards' expertise here. Okay, but making it granular will be the answer. It's the same philosophy with your end user content. The more granular you can make it, the more widespread you can customize it to different audiences. All right, real quickly, as we go to the next set of content, one of the things that's really interesting right now, and I've heard it from many people, is I'm just going to go record my class. I've got this me coming in, they're going to speak, they're going to do a 2-day class, and I'm just going to record and I'm going to put it up on my intranet. If that's all you can do, then by all means do it. However, what we know from the whole process of getting movies, and that's why Charlie Chaplin and the silent movies and all that sort of references up here, is that just recording what goes on stage, like they tried to do at first when they invented the movie, they went into a theater and they said, great, we'll make a movie, we'll record the play. It was terrible. Okay, it didn't look good. We didn't have any, nice effects and things like that. And it really wasn't written for it. You couldn't feel the emotion, you didn't have the right lighting, you didn't have the right staging effects and things like that. The same thing happens with our learning. Okay? So just recording someone standing up talking in their class really doesn't give you the same impact. You need to record for doing video instruction for that. For us, how we translate that into best practice is saying make your content consistent. We have a little methodology where we go through and we teach the knowledge concepts, then we go through and teach those knowledge concepts in the software, and then we follow behind that with actual skill. Okay? And you can see a few of the examples on here, but what you can see is that we've got distribution, we've got advanced pricing, we've got contract billing, again, those 3 examples we just saw, and they go through and they actually pull that together. Okay? The learner can go out here and knows exactly what they're going to get. okay, because they're seeing the same repetition catalog by catalog. Can it get boring? It is possible, okay? Some people might say that, but what it does for the learner is they learn to learn the way you're presenting the content to them. We do provide reference materials. I'm going to take a little tangent on this one. We had some feedback not too long ago that said, hey, I'm an experienced person, I really just want to get into the white papers you guys have selected. Okay? We curate what we call the best of the best, or the most needed information out from the web, and we pull it into our site. Okay? Some catalogs are entirely built like that. Some reference materials are. In fact, most of our reference materials are pulled from things we all have access to. Okay? But instead of you having to go out and comb through it, we pulled it together right there. That's important for your users in any learning environment. We also do knowledge checks. If you can find a way, make sure your learner has an opportunity to actually check their knowledge. Okay? It can be a short little quiz, it can be an interaction with a mentor, it can be a case study or a practice example, but make sure they can go through and have the opportunity to do that. So how do you get it out to them? Okay? You gotta be open 24 hours. And that doesn't mean just, you can throw it on the website, but truly have 24/7 accessibility, making it mobile, making it accessible off the website and that sort of thing. It's kind of an overstated piece, but I'm still shocked to find how many people cannot get to their learning on a regular basis. There's a number of reports that have been long-standing ones in our world, and that is that people spend, something of 30-35% of the time looking for information so that then they can go do their job. That's a long time. That's many, many hours of a person's day. Make it searchable. This one has still got a long way to go for a lot of learning management tools. If you're using an LMS, it's something to check when you do it, but do make your content searchable. That means you tag it and things like that so that users can then go find the exact piece that they're looking for. Users also want to be able to provide feedback these days. This is an awesome way to preserve your knowledge. So one of the ones on your plate is that everyone's leaving, right? Carmen gave the example of the business analysts leaving. They were fabulous, and now we're really going to miss them. One of the ways to preserve some knowledge is to provide a feedback mechanism around the training where people can post their own experiences and post their own documentation. These doesn't have to be formal. You can put a gatekeeper on it, so it has to be approved if you want, but it gives them a way to actually provide feedback in there, and then you can preserve information with it. We actually went one step further with that, and we made a notification app. So for those of you interested in it, and if you have the ability to build apps, and lots of these companies who have your own apps already, this gives you the ability to say to a learner, I've deployed some piece of new content. Okay? You can structure it similarly to how you would do a mass email notification, just doing bullets. Okay, but the learner can pick which pieces they're interested in, read a little deeper, and then decide if they want to go out and take that course. Okay? And ours, we allow them to set some preferences and things like that. But the point being is they don't have to log all the way back in to our system to find out what's new. Okay? They can get that information right here. Now, real quickly, just so you know, a learner only gets about 25% of what makes up their whole learning experience actually in your class. Okay, class being whatever experience you're giving them. 25% of what they know, they already knew when they got there, and they're going to leverage it, and 50% comes afterwards. Okay, so if you're not thinking about what comes post-your training, then you need to be, okay, because those things are really critical for us. We have a community going. I know a lot of people use Salesforce Chatter and things like that. Those tools can be great avenues for getting conversations going. Ours is a little bit different in the sense that they can talk with their learning advisor and things like that. We also have the ability to go out to a vanilla environment practice. If you're not running a sandbox where people can play safely, it'd be a great environment to consider installing, especially for those of you taking an upgrade. Let them get out there and play. Okay? In our case, we actually give them specific practice examples, and we give them a human. So we aren't giving people mentors, which I think most folks are. We all have a boss, right? That's one thing for sure. But a mentor is something totally different. It's someone who's usually in their same category, at their same level, but may have expertise that you're trying to then relay to that new user. And that person can point them in the right direction, provide them with additional information, and answer any questions. That completes the circle of learning. Okay, so you have your content, and we spend all our time right there, but it's that support network that really gives us the ability to round it out. Okay, and so with that, I'm not going to go back up to the 12 best practices, but I would like to thank you for your time. If you want to hear any more about it, certainly come see us, and we'll let Carmen wrap us up for the afternoon.
Perfect, thank you. So lots of information. One of the takeaways, again, we said it a couple times, go granular. Okay? What we have created is Lego blocks. We have literally taken every concept in the JD Edwards functional area, every skill, how to set up what our activity rules, how to set up AAS, how to set up a business unit, every concept, what is a kit, what are features, we've taken every single component and made Lego blocks. That's what we've done in E1 Academy. Then we can build that, right, to a million different things very economically, right, and for a lot of different skills. So, but go granular. And then, because this is what you end up with, okay, we have a long track record of creating very successful, fabulous training solutions. Love to have you talk to some of our customers, all that kind of stuff. And with this, I just want to wrap up and clarify and welcome you guys. One last thing, okay? One last very quick thing is that it's kind of confusing sometimes when you talk to us. It's like, are you talking about end users? We're talking about training. There are training best practices, okay? And then in iLearn, right, just because I know this can get confusing or whatever, we have an end user training or a go live training division, right? Time and materials. We come in and we might just do the assessment. We might just say, hey, this is what you give you a plan and let your people do it. We may actually do everything. We might actually deliver everything. That's really not what the E1 Academy is. Just to be really, really clear, because if you're saying I'm highly customized, and the E1 Academy is literally software training. It's JD Edwards training available to you on demand, very engaging, at less cost than one Oracle course. Okay, for your whole for a person for all the courses they could possibly take. Okay, that's what made a large investment to partner with Oracle and be, you know, that training, the training arm. And this leaves us with the tree. We have very deep roots in JD Edwards training. In the last year, one of our branches is Oracle. We've been partnering with them, right? We have some new salespeople from Oracle that are taking our classes to learn the functionality at the high level, right? So they can do demos of it. It's awesome. Okay? We have business partners, CD Group, CSS, Lenovo. There's huge partners that literally we're partnering with, and we are training, you know, new people and cross-training. It's exciting. You know, might have mentioned, you know, who you are. Some of you, and there's more, White Lights. There's lots of you guys. And now, today, we are welcoming the customers. So, no customers have been in this to date. Now, all of a sudden, we can sell seeds. We can actually, you know, with Oracle Plus and sell seeds and let the customers in, your IT, your business analysts, the people who just need to learn base JD Edwards, right? Who just want to become a guru on JD Edwards, and we have a cost-effective, simple, fun way to do it. So, hope this was beneficial. Hope you guys got some tips and tricks and everything else. Like I said, we have a candy bar, and with that, I will turn it over to Hey.